What if I told you some of my favourite photographs weren't taken with expensive lenses, but with aloe vera gel, foil, smoke, rusty metal, and even bits of Christmas decorations? Over the past few years, I've become slightly obsessed with experimenting. Some ideas have failed spectacularly, but others have gone on to win awards. So welcome to the very first episode of my experimental photo lab, where I'm sharing 8 of my favourite creative photography projects so you can try yourself. Sometimes it comes from asking, I wonder what would happen if? And that's exactly what this series is about. I'll give you a taste of each project today, and if one really captures your imagination, I'll create a full tutorial in a future episode. My first experiment is aloe vera. This one is ridiculously simple, and apparently good for your skin as well. Although I can't promise it'll improve your photography if you start rubbing it on your camera. It creates these mysterious, dreamy photographs, inviting viewers to linger longer whilst working out what on earth is going on. All you need is a cheap tube of aloe vera gel and a sheet of glass or perspex. You can wedge it between a couple of books or mount it on a lab stand if you want it to be a bit more scientific. Spread the gel across the glass and simply photograph through it. The thicker the gel, the more painterly everything becomes. Just leave a few clear gaps so parts of the image can still shine through. If you're feeling really brave, try mixing in tiny amounts of acrylic ink for even stranger effects. The best part is that every image is different. I've used it for flowers, and I've even turned it on myself with a few slightly questionable selfies. Next up is smoke. I've been photographing smoke for around 15 years now. It started with portraits, then found its way into still life, flowers, insects. And if I'm honest, I'll probably try adding smoke to almost anything if you leave me unsupervised. The secret isn't really the smoke, it's the lighting. Lighting the smoke separately from your subject makes a huge difference. For smaller projects, you don't need a smoke machine or expensive gadgets. A single stick of incense works brilliantly. Just be sensible. I always use a ceramic holder on a slate coaster, and keep water nearby and never leave it unattended. The aim is atmospheric photographs, not an unexpected visit from the fire brigade. Next up is patina. I've always been fascinated by old things. Peeling paint, rust, weathered metal, aged copper, all those wonderful colours and textures that nature creates for free. I've been making my own copper patinas and jewellery and artwork for over a decade. Then one day I thought, I wonder what happens if I photograph it. Turns out, some pretty interesting things. More recently, I wondered what would happen if flowers met the patina process. Some worked, and some looked like they'd survived several hundred years underground. But that's half the fun. During winter, when I wasn't getting out much, I even started creating rusty peeling paint panels to photograph. This project is definitely still evolving, which is usually a polite way of saying I haven't finished experimenting yet. Next up is Mylar and foil. If you're someone who enjoys complete control over every photograph, you might hate this one. If you enjoy happy accidents, well, welcome to your new obsession. Mylar is wonderfully unpredictable. Tiny movements completely change the reflections, and some of my favourite photographs happened entirely by accident. I've experimented with it both indoors on my table and outside in the garden. Outside adds beautiful natural light and occasionally a wrestling match with the wind. These beauties are created with resin and ink. I don't see many photographers exploring resin, which is a real shame. It does take a little planning because you have to make the resin pieces first and leave them to cure, which can take up to a couple of days really. So this definitely isn't instant gratification photography. But once they're ready, the possibilities are incredible. Every resin piece is unique, which means every photograph is unique too. Some of these images even went on to win awards. Be warned though, there's quite a learning curve. But it's one of the most rewarding creative rabbit holes that I've ever disappeared down. You'll probably also leave your camera club wondering what on earth you've photographed, which is always quite satisfying. 3D stereo pairs. This one asks for something photographers aren't always famous for: patience. But when it works, it's magical. Even now, seeing tiny details suddenly pop into 3 dimensions still amazes me. I learnt this technique from Alan Wall's YouTube channel, and honestly I couldn't explain it better than he does, so I'd highly recommend his tutorials. The basic idea is simple. You take 2 photographs from slightly different positions. In macro photography, I actually shoot 2 complete focus stacks before combining them. You can then view them by relaxing your eyes, sort of defocusing them, or crossing them slightly, or even using specialist viewing glasses. Fortunately, I can see them just by defocusing my eyes. It still feels like a magic trick though, every single time. I would absolutely love to know in the comments if you can see the 3D effect on these. Do let me know. Glass has become one of my favourite creative tools because no 2 pieces behave the same. Every scratch, curve and imperfection creates something different. Years ago, I mainly used it for portraits and concept photography, bouncing reflections back into the scene. Then, as usual, curiosity took over. What happens if I try this instead? What if I use a different piece? What if I hold it here? Those questions gradually evolved into an entirely new personal project. One I'm genuinely excited about and I can't wait to share with you soon. Next up, filters. Whenever I walk into a craft shop, or to be honest, pretty much any shop, I'm almost never thinking about what the shop actually sells. I'm scanning the shelves thinking, could I photograph through that? Would that make an interesting bouquet? I wonder what happens if I put that in front of the lens. It's probably why shopping with me takes twice as long as it should. After 20 years, you'd think I'd have run out of strange things to try. Apparently not. Only last month I bought another handful of completely random objects to experiment with. Christmas decorations, fly tying materials, fabrics, holographic films, beads, kitchen utensils. Creative filters are absolutely everywhere if you start looking at the world slightly differently. That curiosity naturally spills over into bouquet as well. I'll often hold beads, crystals, fairy lights, or other transparent objects right in front of the lens. Sometimes I'll even place shapes in front of the lights so that the outer focus highlights become part of the photograph. Some of these images don't actually have a subject in focus at all. The bouquet becomes the subject. It's another wonderfully simple idea that can produce photographs that feel completely different. One thing photography has taught me is that curiosity is usually rewarded. Not every experiment works. Some do fail spectacularly. Some make absolutely no sense. But some do surprise you. And every now and then, one changes the direction of your photography completely. And that's why I created the Experimental Photo Lab. It's a place to ask, I wonder what would happen if. Now, I'd love your help. Which of today's experiments would you like to see turned into a full tutorial? Leave me a comment below. I'll be reading every single one, and the most requested project will become a future episode. If today's video sparked even one new idea, then we've achieved exactly what this series is about. Until next time, stay curious and keep experimenting.